You guys are going to have time to introduce yourselves in a minute. Miss Brenda. I want to thank you guys for coming out. Before we start, I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to ask you guys to introduce who you are, what department you're from, and what is your role in your department, okay? So I'm Sophia Cyrus. I work with the Center of Excellence in Teaching and Learning. We do professional development for faculty and staff. So please take advantage of our professional development opportunities that we do offer. They are free since our budget is very thin, low, not conducive for us to do a lot of traveling for professional development. So that's why we try to provide professional development opportunities for you. And if you see anything out there that you feel would benefit the university, let us know, because we do that as well. And we are also mobile, so we can come to you. So if after today's presentation you feel this is something that your whole department, like the whole coaching, because since this is about leadership, let me know, and we can set up a time that we even come to you, or you can have access to all the material that you can deliver it as well. I knew the particular people that were here and could visualize how many people they do actually have to manage. But that's just a question that I see. Is there a difference depending on how many people you actually have to manage, your role as a leader in your area, or it doesn't matter? So that's something I want you to think about. Like, if you only manage 2 people, could you really compare to me that manages 30? Does leadership style change based on the amount of people you actually have to manage? So that's a question that I want to ask you guys, because I'm not in that role. So, all right. So today we're going to get started, and you know the title, and the reason why I like this workshop. Let me give this disclaimer. This was a webinar that I did see that came out. CETL loves webinars because they're cost effective for us, that we can view them at any time. They're at your disposal whenever you want to use them on our CETL resource page. So when I saw this and I said I wanted to lead it out for the summer, I didn't think the webinar would have been as effective as a person actually leading it out. So some of the material is from the webinar that you will have access to, and I will draw attention to that to say that how at the webinar I will go into more detail. So I might just touch on it, but you'll get more information from the webinar. But another part of this webinar or this workshop is research that I've done as far as going out there, and I kind of had to stop because there was just so much. And I was like, okay, let me just stop and, probably have to put together another workshop for that stuff. So I did not invent this, and I'm not the expert, but this is just stuff I'm bringing to you, the directors or leaders on this campus. So some of the outcomes, or the outcomes for today's participants, will review the key steps in hiring and training staff members that are team-oriented. Participants will discuss the importance of recognizing and understanding their leadership style, and that's something that you need to think about when you're looking at your leadership style. There's different types of leadership styles and how you can transition from one to the other, because you might think you're one, but sometimes you might have to adopt another role that you felt you didn't think you had skills in. So, and how it impacts the department's success and challenges. Participants will examine the 5 primary communication pitfalls and supervisors often make and how to avoid them. Participants will discuss appropriate and effective steps to delegation. I think that's very important. Participants will discuss the importance of understanding and acquiring an administrative mindset in order to lead their staff without the common challenge of doing it all. And I know one person in particular, I know for sure in here, his hat to manage his area, and his comptroller, is a lot. He has a lot of functions, so his delegation, that skill I think is very high demand. His office, since he has not just comptroller, breaks down student payrolls, all the different divisions that fall under comptroller. So he couldn't do it all, so he has to make sure he delegates his work effectively in there. So, and participants will identify the key questions related to ethical supervision. And the last one, participants will discuss and define the steps necessary to create an environment that supports professional development for staff and the culture of collaboration and progress towards unit goals. So, what we decided to do when Daniel came to me and said that how he wanted to team up with me this summer, because I told him what workshops I was offering, I said, great, anybody wants to collaborate with CETL, we are willing to work with anybody. That's what we're here for. So he brought this video segment to my attention, and I think it went very well with the leadership workshop that we're conducting. So it's only 4 minutes. It's when you guys get a copy of this PowerPoint, you guys will have access to the link as well. Everything that's in this PowerPoint that you see in front of you, when you get it, you'll have access to all the links, all the documents to go straight to it. So. All right, so we already talked about our emotional style leadership. So we're going to go here into the pitfall. And this right here, I'm not going to go too much into it. I'm just going to go over them briefly because, again, this is going to be addressed in the webinar. So we're just going to touch on it. So some of the pitfalls as a leader you might have is, shall we talk? Some of the things, the way we say things, be careful about our emails. And I know sometimes we want to document stuff because, you know, you want to make sure there's a paper trail that you're covered when certain things have to happen, but be mindful of how you say it. So shall we talk? Sometimes you have to go, can we stop talking? As a leader, sometimes, you know, it's like, you get that employee that always wants to talk. Yeah, you know, so sometimes can we stop talking and let's get down to it. That's not what I meant. Because, you know, that's why when I delegate and give you a task, that I explain it to you. But then I'm going to get mad at you when you bring me something that I didn't want. Think about that. When you give somebody something to do you explain it to them? Because you just assume. Everybody knows Excel, right? Oh, no. Everybody knows how to Google, do the Google, Gmail. No. So you might think that this is elementary, me breaking it down, but you still need to give them a brief overview of what you want so that when they come back to you, they have an idea or whatever. And if they have questions, save room if they have any questions as far as going forward. Does the telephone work? Sometimes when I'm doing that email back and forth, I just pick up the phone and stuff like that. And face-to-face conversations, they said that's the best thing. First time. But you still want to follow up with documentation so you have that as well. So any of these pitfalls, you guys had any areas where
and we stop talking and just do what is been asked. That's what I used to have a problem, especially when it comes to people saying, well, see, I know we're supposed to have that, gave you the count. This is the first 2 weeks of school. You know we need to count every day. Come on. You're on your floor, you're checking in students. I can't always get every student, because some students are going to bypass where they're supposed to stop first. You don't send them back down. I turn in an account and say I have 260 students when I have 275. And they don't see a problem with it. But we know that that's crucial. And that's crucial because some people may be here and not supposed to be here. And some people are not being accounted for. And in the case of an emergency, if I evacuate only 260, I think I'm okay. And 15 people may be somewhere harmed in the building. So all of that plays in. So like I said, can we just stop talking and do what we need to do?
In the residential area, and this is going straight because you brought that conversation up and you said how vital it is. One of the things I think that I see here is that communication and getting that across. Sometimes some people want to know why I need to do certain things and why it's essential because they don't see that that's valuable. Like when I say a head count, why do I got to count them every day? Or why do I have to count them every second? Or why do I have to count them? Did you see what happened at the elementary school when the tornado hit and those kids were down there? How many kids were actually in the school? All these tragedies that you never know what could happen if you don't have a head count, how vital this is. That I rescued 10 because I know there was 10, but then somebody says, no, there was actually 15, so where's those other 5?
Exactly. Well, I mean, you can explain this to them because we had an incident where our sprinkler system went out the first day of finals. Yeah, this May. So on the 5th floor, which flooded and affected the whole west side of Knight complex, I had to know how many students were still living in the dorm. Some had left because they were graduating seniors, but I still need to know where they were so that I could effectively say, well, these many students are here, they left with friends, these people need somewhere to sleep until the next day. And then, you know, and we explain that to them, but some people, like I said, they want to talk about it and not be about it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I was told a long, long time ago that if you want somebody to do something for you, the best way to do this is to get them, when I talk about buying, is to explain to them why, you know, to a degree,
He said, no, you can't, and here's the reasons why. And, but explain, but, you know, and I'm just saying, no, we can, and we can't, but, and it clarified to me, okay, so this is why I didn't wanna have things done at the university and help us to move forward. You know, so you find.
That one extra step could cut down on a lot of confusion, because, you know, I'm under Title III. So I was born on Title III at A&M, so I understand by the rules, and when things change, and I call comptroller's office and have to deal with something, I'm like, what? And then they say, no, here's the rules. Well, I'm still upset, but I'm thanks for the rules. I mean, I'll let you, but I know why, it's not just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But the explanation behind it, and that's why I always tell people, in your department, think about, and this is so off, think about some question and answers that you feel a lot of people ask you guys in your department, whether they ask once or twice. And you might get frustrated when I come to you and ask that same question that somebody asked me, but remember, I didn't ask it. So don't be frustrated. And it's the first time I'm asking it. So try to develop a question and answer in each department that, and give to your staff members that they know, like if somebody was asking a question, it's not my job. No, it is your job. So you have this as a guide as well. So that's something you guys might want to think of within your department, developing a question and answer for every single question. And you know, when people say, I have a dumb question, and you say, no, it's not, think of those questions as well. Did you have anything?
No, I was just going to say, I think, you know, the explanation is important. I came from an institution where no is no. And it was understood, especially on the finance side. If you a finance question, you may have had the money, and they tell you no, you can't do it. If you ask, it's just gonna be no, or not responsive, any emails, anything online. So I think that, you know, the explanation is, you know, that's very important.
Because that same person that said no to you, let somebody say no to them, they're gonna want an explanation. I love that. In your book, we're gonna look at, there's a section called, as a supervisor or programmer, are you stepping up your game? And there's a question, and Mr. Castleberry is gonna come lead this SWOT. Now, I know some of you might not have done or not been able to do the self-evaluation on leadership, but this is something I would like for you to complete, because what we decided, or what we talked about in the previous group yesterday, was doing a follow-up to this and having maybe different leaders come and lead discussions for us to come and talk about it and see how they handle it. Our next session, Daryl Jackson will be leading, and the reason why we have him leading is because he was thrown into a pit fire. Financial aid was the worst department. Ask customer service when you have it. That's what they said. Financial aid. He was thrown in there. Within a semester, because I work in the library here, I know how it's flooded. I was like, wait, what happened to all that crap? Like, wait, what's going on? So what did you do? Did you threaten them? What did you do? So we're having him lead that one. And what I want you guys to do is we're going to do that leadership evaluation now. And then think of some of the stuff, and when Ms. Castleberry leads us out, some of the things that we're going to talk about, and I want you guys to bring that back, that maybe at the end of the fall semester, you're going to look at where you lie, where you fall, if it's the same, if you've changed on that evaluation. So the question I want to ask, do you take the time to do self-evaluation as far as your role as a leader? And the question in your book, I think it says, do you, yes or no? Then it asks the question, how often do you evaluate your work as a supervisor? Once a year? Never? Every semester? So that's a question. It's all in your workbook. So that's something you guys need to think about. And then the last part would be, if you did do the leadership evaluation, there's a SWOT analysis that Castleberry is going to lead right now to talk about your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So.
Has anybody ever done a SWOT analysis before? Through, I know a lot of them do strategic planning and looking at the organization. Well, this can be effective in anything you do, especially as a leader. For those that haven't, what you want to look at is just ask them strengths. Look at areas that you are strong in, areas that you feel that there's positive things that you're, I would say, adding value to the university or adding value to yourself. The weaknesses are areas that we're not so strong in, areas in which we, if given an opportunity, we could improve to make them strengths. Opportunities, when I look at opportunities, I look at what are some things like trainings or things like that I can do to strengthen myself as a leader. What are some books that I can read to make sure that I'm a stronger leader? And then the threats are, if I don't do these things, what's going to occur? Am I going to get fired? Am I not going to progress in my career? It's just taking things like that and looking and just taking time out to do that. I'm gonna take a couple of minutes to go through that process. But as you're going through, just think about how can I use these things to add value to Alabama A&M University as well as myself. And with the SWOT analysis, one of the things that I've done, because coming in and as Sophia said, I inherited the majority of my staff. So I took time out, a couple years later, because I said, what are the things that I can do to help connect and engage with them? So what I did was I gave them all a SWOT and had them go and come back a week later and talk about their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as a professional. I did mine as well. So I was able to share with them my strengths, opportunities, and threats. They were able to share with me what theirs were, which has made it better as far as working, because I then know that this area that I'm not as strong in, well, who in my group can pick up that slack and help me to grow in the area? So that's been working pretty well, because I actually see what they're doing well and what I need to improve on, what their strengths are, and position them for those things long term. So if we take a couple minutes to kind of do our own SWOT analysis, and we'll come back and we'll share in a minute.
Yeah. Okay, so let's hear some of the challenges as a supervisor, or you don't even have to have the title as a supervisor in your role. What are some challenges you do face when you try to take a leadership position in anything you do? So we're going to start with table number 2 this time.
I'm the spokesperson.
Okay.
What she had mentioned before is just not my job. That's a challenge. Not doing the job or taking initiative. And another thing is, I know I'm not coming to work, but I think I'll just wait 1 hour before it's time for me to come to work to make sure you know. And that's important in our area, because if you work a second or third shift, we have to make those arrangements to make sure that that shift is covered, whether it's staff or student staff, still occurs.
When you hear, we have people represented in different areas, so it's nice to hear, it's like different challenges you hear, because, but obviously, skills that we all still need to utilize. Let's go to table number 1.
I think this deals with different personalities, different attitudes, and, if it's a large part, like you were saying in the beginning, how the morale is, and the second part, it shows also.
Table number 3.
One, we definitely agree on is leading change, and how to motivate staff that feel underappreciated. And a third one I'll add is for athletics specifically, is managing the expectations.
And not even just athletics specifically. That's true. So I'm going to give you some more, but this is going to be included in the PowerPoint when you get it, my notes. But one of the things when you talk about transition, so transition based on either a new person coming in and how to take that, and you're that new person, or a transition where you were with us on the same level and now you've been elevated. So that transition and change. A lot of people say they like change, but they don't like change if it benefits them. So if it ain't gonna benefit me, I don't want to see it. Diverse learning styles. When you talk about dealing with personalities and attitudes, as a teacher, we talk about different teaching styles to meet the needs of our students as far as hands-on, kinesthetic, all those different types of teaching style, but we don't realize on the flip side, as a supervisor, you have to learn different styles of your staff. So some people need to be in the back, and you have to understand that that's their personality. They're not to say they're not a bad worker, but they're just not that front staff person. So you have to understand your staff members and understand what are their strengths and weaknesses as well. Expectations. What do you have to set expectations within your department as well. What do you expect from them? Because when the president comes down or the VP comes down and says to you, this is what I need, how do you get that information when your staff members aren't doing it? So you need to set expectations in your office. Motivation. It says find out what motivates your staff and how can you provide it. So I know the morale is down on here because people want this type of incentive and we haven't been given a raise. But it's not about the money at all times. What other things can you do that doesn't even cost anything? So even going up to, Mr. Jones, I have to say on that project you did the other day, that was a very good job. da-da-da, you took charge, I really appreciated that because you allowed me to do my job better. I mean, that took less than 30 seconds to say that, and that person's value now to your staff has grown. So those are type of stuff that you need to be mindful of. Won't take delegation. It's not my job. One of the things they talk about when delegating and all that is talk about documenting, following up, and what steps are going to be taken if things are not done. And when we do customer service workshops, a lot of people say, I don't see what's the point in coming to this because nobody's held accountable. And the email was too long for me to go into detail about what this person said. And I said, I think you need to come to share this with your colleagues. Okay, you didn't come, but, but I mean, you have to document, but what, at the end of the day, it's like, if this person doesn't do it, what's the repercussion? And for me that does all my work, and I see this person that doesn't do anything, and that's how moral goes down, because it's like, why should I try? And this person's not doing anything, and they're still here. And you have a lot of that attitude split on this campus. And there's a lot of frustration, multi-hat, one head, too many hats, egos, all that kind of stuff, vision influence, and so forth. So there's a lot of challenges that you would face and you're gonna continue to face as a supervisor, but do you just give up? I mean, you really can. You can quit if you want, but I have a mortgage to pay, so I need to figure out how I'm gonna do my job. So one of the things that, as a supervisor as well, is you have to take on the hiring role. So some of us are given our staff, and some of us sometimes have the opportunity to choose who we want to be on our team to make an effective team. So we're going to have Mr. Cassenberry take this role, talking about the key steps in hiring and training. Go for it.
Good morning again, everyone.
Good morning.
So I've had a fortunate opportunity to have been supervising people, I said yesterday, for about 25 years. And I said yesterday that I started hiring when I was 5 years old. But it's a great opportunity, and I want to ask questions because I enjoy coming to presentations like this and being a part of them because I learn as much as I'm able to hopefully impart. So the first question I have by show of hands, how many people have hired someone before? All right, now by same hands, I guess, how many people have hired the right person for a job? And how many people have hired the wrong person for the job? Now, I'm sure you'll agree with me, you never truly hired anybody until you hired the wrong person, then you know you hired the right person. You get in situations where, you know, you feel you bring a person in and this is the perfect person for the position. And I'll give an example. When I went on the YMCA where I worked, and I had a pretty big opportunity as a large Y, and I had an aquatic director position to fill, you know, paid well, and one of the candidates was, she had everything. She could train lifeguards, she could teach every class you could think about, she had administrative skills, she'd been working in the field for about 15 years, perfect for her position. Well, we ended up going into the process, did well, said all the right things, hired her for the position. First staff meeting, she sits down with the group, and everyone goes to give reports. She goes ahead and challenges every single staff person on anything they brought up. So that was a red flag there. Second thing is we had a situation happen in the aquatic arena, and I was trying to point some things out. Well, she wants to go above to my boss and say, well, I think I can do his job better than he can do it, which is, you know, she probably could have, but that was the second red flag. But then the third red flag, which was kind of knowing we didn't hire the right person. Every year we cleaned out our pool, we drained our pool, and we cleaned it, refilled it. Well, she decides to drain it, refill it, leave for the night, and let it come back. Well, I come back the next morning with 6 inches of water throughout the facility. So, of course, I said I had to make a decision, and unfortunately she didn't make it. But that person on paper, interviewed well, thought a great fit, didn't work out. So I've learned over the years that there's more to it than just going through a process. And when I'll talk to you today about 3 different areas. I'm going to talk about the pre-interview process, the interview process, and the post-interview process. And one of the things is called pre-interview process, and I guess I'll ask a series of questions. When you go through the pre-interview process, one of the things that I look at is what do you look for in a candidate? What is something that you're looking for? And when I ask you guys questions, what do you look for, pre-interviews, what do you look for in a candidate? Give me some suggestions, what do you look for in a candidate? What are some things you look for when you're hiring a candidate?
Well, first you wanna look at their credentials, what type of, professional background they have, be it a degree or years of experience and that kind of thing. That's the first thing you wanna look at.
Great, anybody else?
I guess in addition to what was just said, I'm looking at how the person's resume is put together, if they do a cover letter, how well it's written, what your oral communication skills, what your written communication skills are like, and so forth. Because positions that I'm hiring for, you need to be able to communicate. And I mean, in this day and age, there should be no spelling errors, mathematical errors. You know, with technology being what it is, there's no excuse for that. So, and when I'm just looking at the paper, what's been submitted, pre-interview, you say those are some of the things that are going to be the qualifications.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Well, sometimes, too many times, especially, we're so busy doing our job that we don't go through the proper procedures as far as putting pre-interview process in place. We try to hire someone who's breathing, someone who has a pulse, someone who we feel that, may look the part. I know at the Wellness Center, we try to hire attitudes first and we teach the skills, which has been important for us. But also the pre-interview process, we have a responsibility also to the potential candidates. And one of the things that I suggest is having an itinerary for all potential candidates. So there'll be a start for an interview process that begins June 6th, that we know the interviews will take place at that time, and then showing a time frame of when the process is going to end. I know I've been through this process before, where you interview for a job, you wait, you call them, what's going on with the process, you wait, and it can become nerve-wracking. We owe our candidates at least that to show them this is what the process is going to take place. If there's an adjustment, we'll let you do that. Now going to the interview process. A lot of times we have committees here on campus, and you may have set up different systems and hiring people, because it's important that we have a group process in order to be able to ask people what they're looking for. So when you think about interviews, what are some things that you look for during the interview process in the potential candidate you're hiring? What are some questions you may ask them? What are some things that you look for? So kind of what's some questions you ask during the interview process?
Well, you want to ask them about previous experience. You want to listen for a tone or attitude of whether or not they felt like they were just doing the job or they did it for the money, Because if you have a passion and you enjoy doing what you're doing, that comes across in the way you talk about, what you did, what responsibilities you had. I would prefer to have somebody who wants to do the job as opposed to somebody who needs to do the job. I've had some people to apply for a job, but they just want that job, I know, until they get the job they want. I want somebody who needs the job, because, my jobs don't pay all that big money, but you have to have a love for children. You have to know that this is what you want to do. Well, if you just need to have a job to tide you over your rent until you get the job that pays you the dollars that you got your degree from, that makes a difference to me.
Yes. Great. Right here.
And it sounds very elementary, but we like to start off by asking them to tell us something about themselves. We want them to be able to articulate their personality, their goals, their experience, their various pluses that they can bring to the table. And that's an opportunity to actually see how they communicate, how they think, and what experiences they've had that they could actually bring something to the table that you're looking for.
What about character questions? How do you find out a person's character?
Yeah, one of the questions, actually, we have an interview going to happen today, and one of the questions that I ask is, if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? And the reason I ask that question is because I want to see how their animal character would fit within the rest of the animal characters that we have within our, our space. So know, it's a very pointed question, and you know, you can get any book and,
Exactly.
you know, and decide what, okay, if you're a lion, because I'm the lion. So we can't have two lions, we can't have, you know, so how that character fits. And then situational interviews. I mean, they're going to get it. They're going to be in the ticket booth, and they're going to get what a typical day looks like on a Friday for a football game to sell tickets. Because we gotta be able to know that that person can work under pressure, can multitask, all things.
Well, one of the questions I was going.
One of the things that I looked at too is how long they stayed at previous placements. Because if you got somebody who's already job hopping, you can just about bet they're not gonna be with you long. And so I wanna know, why did you leave the job that you had previously?
I mean, it's great hearing those questions that are kind of offbeat, because it's important that we try to see how we can think creatively as well. I know I was asked a question when I was interviewing for the Harvard YMCA job in Chicago, and tough community, average income of $9,000. It was rough. My first executive job, so I'm coming in, I'm excited about it. And one of the questions they asked me, you've had some good situations that you've grown up in, you've had good situations where you work with them. You come to Harvey, Illinois now. And they asked me a question. If one of the guys from the neighborhood comes up to you and sticks a gun in your face and says, your money, your life, what are you going to say to him? I said, I'm going to raise my hand and tell him, I know I work for the Y, I make no money and I have no life. So just different things when you think about different questions that can be asked, and just think creatively. Another question that's been asked is, if you're in a game, the clock is running down, and this is what Michael Jordan was playing, when you have a basketball, do you pass the ball to Michael Jordan, or do you keep the ball to yourself and you try to be the game winner and be the hero? And my response was this: if I want a long-term contract, I'll pass the ball to Michael Jordan, make sure he hits the shots and misses. But if I'm gonna be selfish about it, I'll keep it. I'll try to be the hero. So just different situations where you can try to get people to think creatively and work through situations. So interview process is essential, and one of the things that we do, and I know I do a better job of it, is stretching out the interview process a little longer, because we try to get the person in the office, hire them on the spot where they say the right things. But if we don't really take them through the process and maybe have second interviews or finding more about it, you can end up with the wrong hires. Okay? And the last part is the post-interview process. You got the person hired, the right person, the ticket person, and you got the right person hired. Now where do you go from here? Too many times we get in positions where we hire a person, great, here's the responsibility to run. And we're doing that person disservice, we're doing ourselves a disservice, because we're not putting them in a position to be successful. What I believe in is putting together a 90-day plan of where they want to be, and putting specific benchmarks to find out where they're at.
Do you have that 90-day plan?
Yeah.
Can you email it to me that I can share it amongst staff here that they can see?
And I'll do one specifically, because I do it specific to position.
Okay.
I can send you one I used when I got here. Because I knew when I came on campus, I wasn't an official bulldog. So I knew I had certain people I wanted to meet and things like that. So I put that, what I want my benchmarks I want to hit in the first 90 days. Because you can really see what kind of work a person's at. You hate to see a person flounder in a position, but also do yourself a disservice, because if you don't complete some of these tasks in the first 90 days, you're going to be dealing with this person for the next 180 days, and so forth, and dealing with the same issues. We need to be prepared for success. So that's what some things I look for with my posting.
I think, with process work here, we as a university have to get better with the onboarding process in general.
Exactly.
With staffing, coming in, having your computer, having, a
Yes.
having, just access to things that you need to do your job. And so I don't know, I do know, it is on our end as the employer to have those things in place prior to the people coming, on board, so.
Exactly. And then also with our students, I know one of our students works here, Keitha, who's just been an outstanding student at the Wellness, employee, started off front MSA. She's gone from that to lead the front desk. Now all of a sudden she's our graduate assistant, and she's going to do some great things. Well, she had to do things beyond what just the general job description was. She went about and asked for more responsibilities and things like that. So there's things that can happen, and she written, which is great, giving them different assignments, post-interview to help them to grow in the position. So we just have some great opportunities here, and our students hopefully are learning from what we're teaching them, but it's important that we all can go in a position.
Okay, we're just gonna go, all these stuff are in your notes. He didn't really go over them specifically, but in the webinar that you will be getting, you will have access to the additional information that they address when it comes to key specific things related to what's in the actual PowerPoint here.